Well, here at Newbury, I'm just catching up with Rafe Beckett, and one of the big talking points over the last 24, 48 hours in the sport has been the decision regarding the 300 races that have been proposed by the BHA to be scrapped from the calendar after yesterday's vote. That proposal has been cast to one side. Rafe, obviously you're someone who's discussed the politics of the sport many times before. What's your initial reading of the decision?
Cop out. You know, to be careful what I say here, Rishi, but this was a BHA proposal. And not to vote for your own proposal, whatever way you dress it up, is abdicating responsibility. You and others and all of us have asked for strong leadership from the BHA, and whatever way you dress it up, this isn't that.
When you follow the sequence of events leading up to yesterday's decision, looking at it from an outsider's point of view, you find it hard to believe that we ended up in the situation where the vote is taking place on something that they proposed, the BHA proposed, yet the BHA said no. Surely you would consider that there'd be some discussion, some sort of guidance leading up to the vote before we get to that stage, because as you say, it then leads to this awkward situation where the proposal that you suggested is not even supported by you. How do you quantify that?
Well, you know, my own view is that Julie is an ex-employee of the racecourses. Joe Salmrez-Smith comes from a bookmaking background, and they see the sport through that prism, effectively. And the point I would make, Rishi, is that Julie said in a statement today that this going ahead with this proposal would result in discord. Well, if this isn't discord, I don't know what is. And I would point out that 6 of the 9 stakeholders voted for the proposal. So, you know, if you're not prepared to go with 6 of the 9 and you'd rather go with ARC, effectively, as I said to her in conversation this morning, effectively, Julie, you've handed the sport over to Martin Cruddas. That's my view.
It's a long-held conversation, Rafe, that less is more for the good of the sport long term. Is there anything within you to continue to want to fight that fight?
Well, you know, this sets a precedent. You know, BHA can say, well, you know, we're going to do a wholesale review of the programme and come up with a programme that fits all stakeholders. This sets the precedent. There'll be no review that's meaningful. Is my view. Now I might be proved wrong about that, Rishi, but it's my view that there'll still be the same number of races in 2022, in 2025, as a result of this decision. That's my view.
Worrying times. Rafe, thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Rafe mentioned the statement that was released today. It was a follow-up statement to that which the BHA released last night from Julie Harrington today, who was one of the 3 people in that room as part of the executive committee. Let me give you that statement. Let's bring you that statement. The BHA retains the view that it is critical we take steps as a sport to deliver a racing product which is both competitive and compelling. The use of a data-driven race programme which is suitably tailored to the population of horses in training will be central to this. Following ongoing discussions with the sport's member bodies, we believe the best way to achieve this will be through collaboration on a unified industry strategy rather than making tactical tweaks to the race programme which have the side effect of causing significant division amongst the sport's various members, what Rafe was referencing there, that division. The sports leaders have recently announced that work will now begin on a unified strategy with fixtures and the race programme at its core. Meanwhile, the size of the 2023 race programme will remain under review, with the capacity for decisions to be made later in the year based on ongoing industry discussions and our ongoing monitoring of the horse population. I think I think balance is important here, first of all, Steve. I hosted the Nick Luck podcast this morning and tried to get as many views on this as possible. And I'll be completely honest, it was a lot easier to get those people who are outspoken against what's happened in the last 24 hours than effectively the views of those who have got what they want. And I guess that's largely because most people know largely it's going to be an unpopular decision. But as Rafe was mentioning there, those who hold the sway see it as a popular decision. Those decision makers, those with the power to affect the change, have, even though, as Rafe was saying, they were in the minority, they have effectively at this stage got their way. What's your take on it?
Well, first of all, Rafe Beckett said quite rightly that we need strong leadership from the BHA. Well, not voting for your own proposal, that isn't anywhere near strong leadership. And Julie Harrington's been largely anonymous throughout her time at the head of the BHA, and it's just another, as Rafe Beckett says, cop-out. And it might happen further down the line. We need action now. The field sizes now are getting to the point where it's going to turn people off racing. Racing is in danger of a day-to-day basis if we keep having small fields like this of becoming boring. And you look at the larger world, the interest rates, the cost of living. If you've got racehorses and you're struggling to pay the bills, if you've got 3, you might go down a bit. If you've got 1, you might decide that you don't want 1, you might have a share of 1. So the horse population could easily shrink. And a trainer that I spoke to the other day said that horses that he would generally move on because they'd served their time and they needed to refresh, they weren't being replaced. So we need action now. We don't need it when they come up with another strategic review. We need someone to take the problem, the issues in racing, and do something about them now, not further down the line. And this is one thing that needs to be addressed now. And Rafe Beckett said 6 out of 9 were for it. Well, I'm sorry, but this just isn't leadership from the BHA, and it's drifting.
I think the issue is, well, the BHA acts as a referee as opposed to a ruler. Yeah. And look, I don't know I genuinely don't know quite how much power they can have, or you know, I think the consensus is that more can be done, but I don't quite know the internal machinations of that, of how that works power-wise. But while it doesn't rule on a matter like this, you are never going to get everyone to agree. That's an impossibility. The racecourses, I cannot see ever agreeing to this. Why would they? But then you look at, it's timely. Aintree tomorrow night, 30 runners across 7 races. Now that might be, some people might say that's a bad example, but we get that a lot in summer jumping at the moment. So I think the main point out of this is, if you're not willing to vote for your own proposal, that's the embarrassing side of things. That's what doesn't look good. And just to take it on to the next stage would have been the sensible thing to do, even if you wanted it to be part of an ongoing review going forward.
And what you say is where it's different factions. This has been racing's problem since as long as I can remember, that this can bring all these different parties together and agree on something for the good of the sport. And this is where we've come to now, that the sport seems to be totally drifting, and no decisions for the good of the sport seem to be able to be made if that's the case. And there's just opposition to everything, and it's easier just to keep on going with what we've got, and what we've got at the moment isn't good enough.